My next guest is a video game composer, best known for his work at Rare, working on games such as Banjo Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, Goldeneye 007 and Perfect Dark, among many others. And he's been recognized for his contributions to the video game industry over and over and over. First up, let's welcome him to the studio. Hello, Grant Kirkhope.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's like meeting an old friend, I got to tell you. After doing all my prep and stuff, it's like, here he is. And when you got back to my email, I had to double check my phone a few times. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for asking me. It's very kind. Nice to be asked every now and then, to come out the box and speak.
Yeah, come on, man. If I had you in the studio, if only. Anyway, I found some stuff I wanted to share with you because my 9-year-old self would not forgive me if I didn't quickly share these pictures with you. I found them in my old school journals. If we can bring those up there and get rid of the strap. 1998, my favorite games on Nintendo are Mario Kart 007, and the teacher actually corrected it to Golden Island, unfortunately, but it was 007 Goldeneye. There's an image I've done there. I thought it was pretty close to what, the game looks like. There's the first person angle there. And
on the left there, is that a carrot? On the left, underneath the guy, is that a gun? That's a gun, isn't it?
I don't know what that. And then once in Banjo Kazooie, misspelt by me, but also miscorrected by the teacher, I got up to level 5 and there's a giant clam, and there's a picture of Treasure Trove Cove, as I'm sure you're aware.
It is indeed
one of your most popular tunes. And the comparison image there, you can see what I was trying to capture. Pretty.
Just like it.
It's just, I thought I did a pretty good job. But
that's better than I could do, sure.
Mate, this is from my workbook in '98, so you can tell what kind of impact your music and the games have had on me. Now I want to talk about you and your journey as an artist, and you fell into the gaming industry after playing in a couple of rock bands, I understand. Can you hear a bit more about that?
Look at that picture.
Oh, mate, I've got you sorted. I could not not share this stuff. Look at you.
Dear. I do have a very dodgy rock past. Yeah, I played rock bands for about 11 years, really, off and on. But all my friends and me usually played in rock bands, and we sort of spent half the time on unemployment benefit and half the time on tour. That's how I went along. So I spent about at least 11 years doing that. And then a friend of mine called Robin Beanland, he'd played in one of the local bands that I played for. He was a keyboard player, announced that he got a job. And I was like, what? Like, no one that I knew got a job. We all just playing rock bands and pub rock, getting a few quid a night,
Yeah.
So I'm going to go look at Rare in the Midlands. I was like, what's that? It's a video game company. I'm going to be a composer. I was like, wow, I didn't know it was a job at the time, I played a lot of games at the time. Anyway, being there about a year and a half, he said to me, Grant, you've been on the unemployment benefit off and on for about 11 years. Don't you think it's time you got a job? And I was like, really, what can I do? What can I do apart from do this? I can't do anything else. He said, well, why don't you try to do what I'm doing, be a video game composer? I was like, well, I guess I could try. And when I was at university doing music, I actually failed the harmony exam 3 years out of 4 because I was terrible at harmony. I was really, really bad. I didn't understand it. It was just, I failed it every time I did it.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, well, I'll go, So he recommended that I buy an Atari ST with a mega RAM in those days.
Is that the one with the wooden finish?
It might be Padlock. Yeah, it might be that. Yeah.
So you've got one of those.
I got a synth, Copy Keybase, which is like a sequencing program, and I set about writing music that I thought was appropriate for games. And it was probably 1994, and I sent Rare 5 cassette tapes in those days over the course of a year. I never got a reply, and then out of the blue said, please come for an interview. And Dave Wise, who was Mr. Donkey Kong, actually interviewed me. And would you believe it? I got the job. So that was a complete fluke, absolute fluke. I never once thought about being a composer. I wrote songs for the rock band I was in, but they were pretty metal,
And you said you were playing games at that time. Like, what games were you playing as a teenager when you were playing rock and roll?
I was a bit more than a teenager, I'm afraid. I'm quite old.
You don't look it.
It's a good light. So it was like I had an original Game Boy and I had the SNES. So I was playing, Tetris and all that kind of stuff on the Game Boy, but I was playing mostly, my favourite game on the SNES is Zelda: Link to the Past. So that's still my favourite game of all time. That's my favourite game of all time. So
I'm an Ocarina of Time Ocarina of Time man myself, but
well,
good
I
take.
guess you're a bit younger than me, so but I did like that too. But I felt that on the SNES it was so brilliant and the music was fantastic. I just couldn't believe how good it was, and so I was playing that. So and then and other games on the SNES like I can't think hundreds on there, like Star Wars, Gods, Mario games, hundreds.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, but never for once thought I'd be a composer. That's completely fluke.
It's incredible. And so just before we move on to the gaming stuff, what's a standout memory from your rock and roll days?
Well, I used to play in a UK band called The Little Angels. I played trumpet with them in the horn section. And we did some pretty big touring back in those days. Like we supported Bon Jovi in a 6-week, European tour, outdoor arenas, like 80,000 seat arenas. Also, Van Halen, we did Van Halen tours. Brad Adams played Wembley Stadium at the old Wembley Stadium in London. The Brad Adams to 70,000 people. So I did the massive gigs, so I knew what it was like. So any one of those was pretty good. Because I'm a guitar player, meeting Eddie Van Halen was fantastic for me. And he actually gave me a guitar, which I have here. Eddie Van Halen gave me this guitar.
Yes, he did.
And that's what they gave me.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I'm so glad I asked that question. So, moving on. Even as a kid, Rareware games always stood out for me. There was something about them that gave me the idea that you guys were having a lot of fun in the studio making the games, and I'm hoping you guys had as much fun making them as we did playing them. Was it as exciting as I'm making it out in my mind? The golden years of gaming in the mid-90s? What was it like working at the Rareware offices?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, Rare was in a tiny village called Twycross, right, which is in the middle of nowhere. All that's there is a private school and a pub. That is it. It's just absolutely in the middle of nowhere. So the reason we chose that spot was to keep all us people from wanting to have lives outside the company. So we just spent our time all the time there working. But when I first got there in '95, it was like I felt like I was working at Disneyland. Just had a massive success with Donkey Kong Country on the SNES, sold 10 million copies. Nintendo bought just under half the company. Like it was just like unbelievable. For me to get there, I never had a job. My first job in my life, right, was to work at Rare. I never had a job before that. So to be there, working at a company like that, writing music for video games was just unbelievable. And it was family run. It was just fantastic. Absolutely. And all that humor that bled into Banjo Kazooie, it was just a kind of team humor. We'd all be in a separate blocks, like 15 or so people per game. And we'd be shouting up down the corridors to people, taking a mickey out of each other all the time, lots of nicknames. It's just all that just bled into the game, and that's where the game is. It's just that humour that we had amongst each other. I mean, we hung out together, we went and drank together, everything together. You know what I mean? So it was just a real team atmosphere. I've
brought my cartridge in today because if you were here, I would have got you to sign it. But it's amazing to think that all that love and all that energy and all that laughter is just compact into this tiny little. It's crazy.
And,
So apart from the music when you were working there, you did a couple of voices as well. Were you able to influence much of the story or the character development of any of the games you worked on aside from the music? I understand you played Mumbo Jumbo himself, the shaman from Banjo.
I did indeed, yeah. Yeah, but the main reason for that was because it was just quick to do it myself. Rather than get someone else to do it, I just do it myself. It was quick and easy. And you never really thought about it. But then, years later, I can remember when I went to meet the guys to do Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. I went to Paris to meet the Ubisoft team there. And we were talking about how the voice acting in Banjo Kazooie was so iconic. I was like, are you crazy? Like, it's just that kind of awful noise, I know. That was the best we could make it at the time. Memory was so small. But I mean, it's funny how back then we thought it was the best. It was pretty awful, best we could do. But now it's iconic, right?
It's like, iconic.
I don't know how that works.
Absolutely iconic. And you're talking about the limits on the system at the time of the memory. They had to shrink your music down for the games on the 64 because of the memory. One of the outstanding pieces was the shredding intro to the popular spy game Goldeneye. Now, how did you work around these limitations? Because anyone who listens to it now, I still think it's awesome. But let's talk a bit about Goldeneye.
So we worked out, that was my first game I ever did. To get to work on Goldeneye as my first game was ridiculous. I was like, my God, I'm going to work on a James Bond game. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we had the rights to the theme tune. Monty Norman, who wrote the theme tune, is pretty litigious and pretty protective, but we got the rights to the tune, so we could use it anywhere we liked. So we worked out that it's only on the real, yeah, right. It's only composed of like 2 or 3 sections, like so if we just sampled the guitar doing those little bits, and then we could assemble the tune with tiny little samples, and make the entire tune out of little bits rather than having a whole guitar play it umpteen times, which we just couldn't possibly afford the memory. We can make it of little snippets, and that it's stuck together like that to make that's how it sounds. So it sounds pretty with it on the console, like, but that was how we did it to keep it small. We cut it into bits and realised we could make the whole theme tune out of little segments.
It's incredible because the soundtrack for the game is actually better than the soundtrack for the film, and I say that wholeheartedly. Like, it's incredible. And basically, I'm holding another one. I don't even know how it got there, it just did. Basically, I still play the music from the Goldeneye multiplayer when I do split screen Halo with my friends. We just pop it on in the background because it's something about it gets the blood pumping more than anything else. So
it's so strange. I like strange because, you know, the music quality the actual sonic quality of the samples is so poor, it's so low, it's nowhere near CD quality, it's less than half of that, right? It's absolutely tiny. So the fact that you like the sound of it it's very humbling to think that we managed to get it sound like that. That you still like it, 20 years later. But I mean, it's really is pretty poor sonic quality. It's not very good.
Well, I mean, we love it, but I'm wondering if it's just nostalgia or if you guys are actually manipulating, you were manipulating the human brain to reach into the peak heart of our minds to attract us with your music. I saw a video that you posted the other day that did make you sound very, very clever. It was talking about the musical jargon and all those sorts of things. And
right.
I couldn't understand it at all.
I don't know, when I see those things, I always think to myself, people analyze it, and I guess it is correct, but I don't think I was thinking any of that when I wrote it. I just wrote I really don't, I'm not like an intelligent composer. I just kind of mess around till I think it sounds good. And so that's what I do. And if it turns out, when they analyze it, it sounds pretty technical, right? That wasn't in my head when I wrote it. It's just like, I think that sounds good, that bit, I'll stick it, a bit like that and be all right,
That's even better. It's like a misunderstood genius, This is the genius of it. But as we all know,
I wish it was.
Grant, as we all know, gamers love loot, toys, key rings, statues, the whole thing. So I understand you worked on Goldeneye. They gave you an Amiga watch after the project.
Right.
Did they give you a bunch?
In fact, that's it there.
Oh, you're wearing it? Oh, I can hear the music. So did they give you, for instance, on Donkey Kong 64, did they give you guys just a bunch of bananas or something? Were there any bits and pieces you've picked up along the way apart from the watch?
I think I got a bit more than that. We kind of got, I must admit, we've got some stuff in the garage that I've not searched through for years, and we did it like last weekend. It literally been in the house 5 years and finally got around to it. I found so many bits and pieces that I just forgot that I had, like Goldeneye pens and Donkey Kong. I've got a Donkey Kong pocket watch that proper with a chain that goes into a waistcoat pocket. Oh. I've got a Banjo Kazooie watch. I've got so much stuff. I've got nothing kicking around it. It's all into the room. But yeah, I think you tend to get it and sort of just put it to one side and keep it because you think, oh, but it's a keepsake,
Yeah.
I've got all T-shirts that we wore. We used to wear those little kind of polo shirts to the E3 conference where all the embroidered names of the games. I've got like 50, about 20 of those in a case that have all got the embroidered name. Things that I guess I'll just hand to my kids and they'll throw away.
I managed to save this from the rubbish bin. Someone was throwing this out. If we can go to camera 3, I can hold that up. That is a genuine 1998 piece of Banjo Kazooie paraphernalia. They were throwing it out. I'm sorry about what they did to the back. That was unfortunate. I was heartbroken when I saw that. But I thought, again, if you were here, I would have got you to sign it, but never mind. Never mind.
Fantastic. I like it.
But it was just on the side of the road, Of all people to find it, it was me.
It's very sad.
It's heartbreaking. But all right. Now for the big one. You did the soundtrack for Banjo Kazooie, and I've got to inflate your ego again and tell you that the game shaped my love of theme, mood, music as a narrative tool. I was embarrassed as a kid when I had Banjo Kazooie music on my CD player and everyone else was listening to the Spice Girls or whatever else. People didn't understand, what it was, right. And I felt very, alone. But as a gamer, and obviously the community, as you know, the community is so lovely and they hold on to this stuff. And again, Goldeneye and Banjo were two of the first games I owned. I was really impressed by how the overworld linked into you made the environment feel alive. Caverns felt cavernous, the beaches felt beachy, and the frozen levels had a chill to them. How did you go about achieving these things? And again, I know it's not your, technical skill, but your feeling. How do you give life to an environment with your music? Because it was really, really impressive.
I just think that as human beings, right? I feel like we're kind of pre-programmed now to expect certain sounds at certain points when you see some things on screen. You know, it's from the movies, like, you know, when they first started, like, you know, you'd expect to hear marimbas or steel drums at a beach. You'd expect to hear, I don't know, tinkling instruments when it's snowy and icy. It's just those kind of things where you shut your eyes and go, what does winter sound like to me? And it sounds like Celeste and pizzicato strings and glockenspiel. And what does a beach sound like to my head? It sounds like steel drums and marimbas and, you know, accordions and, you know, things like that. I think you get that picture in your head and you just put it into music. And I don't think it's not that clever. It's just that you expect to hear those sounds. And once you start messing around with those sounds, it just turns into a Christmas level or a beach level or a whatever level or a spooky level.
And what about the underwater sections? It was always cool when you were in a level, music was playing, but when you went underwater, the music changed, but it was the same theme. I thought that was an incredibly clever tool as well.
That's our channel fading. So we have like 16 channels in a MIDI file that you use, right? And I'd allocate some channels. If there's 4 areas in the level, I'd say, you know, channels 1 to 3 for that area, channels 4 to 6 for that, and so it would be like that. And we'd draw circles under the level so you can't see them. And when Banjo walks across the circle, it triggers the music to switch from channels 1 to 6 to channels 2 to 2 or whatever it is. And so that's how you do it. So underwater, when it went underwater, it would detect the water and it switched to just harp underwater. It was right. And that's how I did it. It just constantly, it just morphed all the way along. So it would keep morphing. So that, you know, we thought it was pretty clever at the time, you know. So it made such a difference to the game because the tune never stopped. It just morphed to a new version, right? As you went to a different level, a different place to play the level in the area. So we thought it was really cool.
It was really cool. It was really clever. So we've, as you can tell, because I'm just beaming with smiles, we've explored some of your early stuff. I want to know about what you're working on now. What's the latest project for you at the moment? Who's been on the phone?
Well, as usual, yes, as games guys, we can never ever talk about what we're working on. It's always super secret.
Silly question, really, isn't it?
But I've just done a movie. I've just done a movie called Shadows by Michael Mateo Rossi. It's coming out later this year. I did a short movie last year called The Wrong Rock, little animation. It's like 14 minutes. It's on YouTube, directed by Michael Kaywood, who was a guy who worked at Rare too, and he's in LA now. He's working on big movies.
It's funny because
so that's cool to do.
The animation, now that you've said that, I actually recognize the animation somewhat, the storytelling style from the short film.
Yeah, totally. And I kind of feel I say to people, if you watch that little movie, I guarantee it'll put a smile on your face because it's a super little happy thing. And I love scoring it. It was great fun. It's super high quality. It's like DreamWorks quality. So I was super happy to do it.
You obviously did the music. They got you back for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate when Banjo was brought to the game. Yes. So you got a chance to work on the music for Smash Brothers as well, most recently.
That was absolutely crazy. I can't believe, you know, like when I did Mario Rabbids, I was the first Western composer to work with Mario, right? I couldn't believe that. And then a couple of years later, you get to ask to do, I mean, it's just, you know, why is it me? I don't know why. But getting asked back to do Sparrow Mountain for that game was fun. Was so humbling. It was like, you know, I was just super excited to do it. And they were super nice to me, the Nintendo guys, and it went really well. And I, you know, I never forget when that got announced, people went absolutely crazy when that got announced, right? The videos you see, the people watching the TVs going, it's just amazing.
I may or may not have shed a slight tear when I saw the announcement trailer.
I did.
And you know, just another side note, I woke up to the Spiral Mountain theme to morning as my alarm. So it kind of just gets me up. The sun comes through the window and the Spiral Mountain theme just starts. So it's, you know, Grant, thank you so much for your contribution to the industry, for, you know, everything that you did without even knowing for me and my life growing up. It was really important. Banjo and Kazooie were some of my favorite characters, and it brought my sister and I together. I often think that, you know, because the characters were a pair, we were a pair, you know what I mean? And we would play it together, so...
Right.
But mate, that's all the time I've got for today. So thanks again so much. And we look forward to learning more about you and your new projects. I'm following you on Twitter now, so I'll be going through and keeping an eye on you.
I saw you. I'll follow you back.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Yes.
And,
yes. Thanks for asking me. It's been great.
Mate, thank you so much and stay safe. Be well.
You too.